Okay, so good evening, everyone. I thank you for joining us tonight for this very special program. I forgot even what I called this. I think I just talked, I think I just called it how to defeat censorship, or
Protect content.
how to protect content, something like that. I just gave it a very generic title. Sometimes I'll get fancy and put like a flyer up there and really, come up with a catchy name. But, this isn't really about catchy names or marketing. This is about information. And tonight we have an extremely important topic, and that is protecting your digital information, because we have been hearing, we already know what big tech has been doing to censor our voices. We've seen it ourselves firsthand. Here at We the Patriots USA, we actually had our page taken down, and we were able to get it reinstated, luckily. But after only existing for about a month, we had our page completely deleted. That kind of stuff is happening all the time, and it's going to happen even more. I'm hearing after the first of the year, anybody who posts any information that that they deem, the tech gods deem false, regarding medical information, COVID or vaccines, they're going to take it right down. And that's a big problem for us, because that's one of our primary topics here. One of the things we talk about a lot. I want to welcome in our guest tonight, Matthew Raymer. Matthew is the Chief Technical Officer at Anomalist Design. Did I get that right?
Anomalist.
Anomalist Design. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I kept trying to keep that in my head, because originally I had Content Safe in my mind. I was connected to you with you through Ricky Varandas of the Ripple Effect podcast, and I was on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned you've got to talk to Matthew Raymer. He's just has some great information. He can really help you with the censorship problem, and teach you how to back up your information as well onto an alternative platform. I didn't even know there was a way to do that. Apparently, there's a way to save your content from Facebook or from another platform, and to back it up somewhere else. So I'm just going to let you start, Matthew. But you prefer Matthew or Matt?
Either one's fine.
Either one. It's more casual, so I always go with the more casual Matt. But let's just talk about first how you got interested in this topic, how you got involved in this topic, and obviously you're a tech guy, I know that much, but specifically how you started focusing on this area, protecting against censorship.
Well, it's very interesting, because I've been involved in the internet since its beginning. In fact, I can go all the way back to pre-internet days. I was involved with the early bulletin board communities back in the 1980s. Because I'm 50, so I've been at a perfect time in history to cross between these eras. And I recall, as I was finishing my master's degree in computer science, that a professor came in one day. This is probably around 1994-ish, maybe 1995. And he said, they can't let the internet stay open like this. People cannot be able to say whatever they want to say. They're going to have to, and he used these words, shut it down. They're going to have to restrict it. And I remember thinking at the time, no, that's not right. We can't allow that to happen. So this has a long history for me. Going back to that time period, most people weren't even thinking about, because I didn't even know what the internet was at the time, right?
Right.
Fast forward, say throughout the 2000s, I was increasingly becoming concerned about mass media. I was starting to feel as though the information I was getting on mass media wasn't accurate, propagandistic. Of course, I'm maturing at the same time. Whenever you're a child, you don't really understand how powers can be there to influence you in ways that aren't really in your interest. 2012, right around there, I got involved in the alt community. I started listening to alternative voices, understanding better what was going on in the world, and I very quickly began to value that information and the fact that I couldn't find it anywhere else. And I had that memory going back from the 90s, like, well, they're going to shut this down eventually. So I started saving terabytes of this stuff, things that I thought was valuable. And over that time, I started developing little techniques of redistributing that information. So early on, I was pulling RSS feeds off of people's podcasts and bundling them up into torrent files and then shipping them out to torrent indices, that, so people could find them out there. And in the last few years, with the emergence of alt tech, I started playing around with tools for taking material off of YouTube and putting it up on, say, BitChute. And this is developed into a company. We're called Content Safe. It's a project underneath Anomalist Design right now, but it's going to be budded off into its own company in the near future. Basically, we automate the workflow process of content creators. And this is necessary because the amount of effort it takes to redistribute your content to, say, more than one platform becomes so onerous. I was talking to a major content creator just a couple of weeks ago, and his wife is managing all the uploads for him. And he asked his wife, how much time do you spend each day, because he does a daily show, how much time do you spend each day uploading stuff? And she said 4 hours a day. And you would rather have yourself or a media team or an assistant doing something of greater value than redistributing content. So what we do is we offer that as one of our services. This is a near-term, what I would call a near-term way to address censorship, because this is only a near-term solution or an answer to our current problem. We need to keep expanding beyond the near term. Right now, if you want me to go into what I think my overall philosophy of content protection is.
Sure.
Now I really feel that, first of all, make sure you have backups of everything local. That's one really important thing. If you haven't done that, and surprisingly, a lot of content creators don't keep backups of their material, especially when you get to these guys that do 2, 3, 4 shows a day. They're just letting YouTube store it, and that's not a good idea. You need to be storing this stuff.
So when you say material, if I can ask a question, when you say material, and by the way, we've got a lot of questions. We've got about almost 200 viewers who are watching live, and people will be watching later right now, but I've got a lot of questions coming in. We actually have an audience from all over the world on our multiple platforms with this software. We're able to, I'm sure you're familiar with it, we're able to stream to a lot of different places. So we have a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds asking questions, and I want to let them know we will get to your questions in a little bit. I just want to ask my question first, which is, when you say content, it sounds like you're primarily talking about like videos and podcasts, but there are some people who want a way to back up their entire Facebook page, their entire account, all the things they've been, posting on there for years and years. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, actually, we're partnering with Float. That Float does backups of Facebook. So that's one strategy that you could approach. Get a Float account, and Float will back up your entire Facebook page for you. They've already figured that problem out.
Float, so that's float.com?
No, flote.app.
Well, good thing I asked. flote.app.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a paid service, I assume.
Well, they're free.
They are, actually. Wow. Okay, well, that is good to know.
And I must say that there are some really great groups out there, like Odyssey. I think Odyssey's fabulous, but the most accommodative, helpful group of people I've ran across so far are Float.
Okay, so they can back up social media content from just Facebook or from Twitter as well, or?
I'm not sure about Twitter, but I do know that they can do Facebook. And if they can't do Twitter, we can help, because we have strategies for backing up things as well on Facebook and Twitter.
All right, so let me see if I
want to shout out Float, because I really do think that they're a good company and they deserve props.
So that's that's how people can get the FLOTE.app. I have it all there on my screen. So, all right. So thank you so much. That was, I think, what struck me the most when Ricky told me there was a way to do it. I didn't know. I think he probably did. Now it's ringing a bell. He mentioned float, but it went in one ear and out the other. I said, I got to talk to this Matt guy. He's the guy I got to talk to first, and then we'll figure out where I have to go. He'll lead me in the right direction. So I think I just sort of missed that, but that's huge because I know a lot of people watching. I can already see from the comments are worried about what happens when our page gets deleted. We don't have any of this backed up. This is going to be horrible. If it's stored in one place, it's going to be awesome because then you can go to these other platforms, MeWe, Parler, anywhere else, and you can just repost all that stuff. And so it's not lost. Nothing is ever truly lost, as you know, in the internet, but it would be lost to us anyway. Someone else might be able to find it, but I don't have any tech.
Inaccessible.
Inaccessible to me. Yeah, to me. So all right. So let's talk a little bit more about while we are still on Facebook for the time being, whether that's another week or two, whether that's another month or two, a year, however long that we can remain there. How are some ways that we can do you have any tips for getting around censorship? Because, the algorithms are becoming so sophisticated now. Like when we would type the word vaccine, a lot of people started out, they used to do the 2 parentheses for the C's instead of the C's. And then then they started putting X instead of for vaccine, or they just put space.
The most ingenious strategy I've seen so far is one based off a guy in Sweden that talks about vaccines. He calls them Vaseline. He just uses a substitute word. This is a short-term solution, and AIs are actually not all that smart. They have to use words with real content. If everyone has an implicit, people can fill in the gaps about what you mean, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's one short-term, very quick way to address algorithmic detection. But what I'm encouraging people to do is collect your followers and get off Facebook. There are plenty of other venues for people to have discussions. It's the same thing. I've been talking to content creators on YouTube for years. It's like, look, we got to invest in these alt platforms. I understand that people want to use Facebook and YouTube as a way to reach new people, but that's no longer viable. You're not going to be able to reach new people on those platforms. So let's try to take what we have and move it to a platform that's much harder to monitor. And I need to make the distinction. Whenever I say this, people often say, well, no, you can't hide yourself from everything. Well, of course you can't, but you can prevent, say, corporate monitoring. I use a service called Keybase, and that's keybase.io. And they are a chat program. It's no voice. But they have community organization like teams and groups in there. So you could organize your existing followers into a platform that is going to be very difficult to monitor. The other part is email lists. I mean, this has been a way to address staying in communication for years that's more resistant to censorship, though I would encourage people to stop using Gmail. If you're an organization and you have a domain name, self-host your email.
Okay. Self-host our email, but let me ask you this, because one of the biggest problems that I've had is trying to get the members there. You're saying we have all these followers, okay, but and creating an email list. But I haven't been able to capture all their emails because even though when they join the group, we do ask them to provide their email address, but some people just don't really want to. Mm-hmm. Some people don't see the question there. And initially we were like, that's it. You don't answer the email address. You don't answer the email question. We're not letting you in. But then we realized how restrictive that was. And there were some people that just weren't comfortable, but really wanted to share information on Facebook. And eventually we relaxed that a bit. And so we have a whole bunch of people now in our group that we don't know their emails. And we've tried to post like Zoho forms or just send your email address to this email if you haven't given us your email. But we're so heavily censored in everything we post. We don't. I mean, Facebook actually told us we will stop because you shared so much false information. They won't say fake news, of course. False information. We are not going to share. We're going to stop showing your post in people's news feeds, and we are not going to recommend your group to anyone anymore. So those two things are incredibly harmful because that means someone has to physically every day go into our group and scroll through all the posts to find what we're posting. Who does that? No one's doing that. Okay. So because of that, whenever we make a post like that, please respond. Give us your email address. They don't give their email address. And so our email list is only about for the Connecticut Freedom. We have two groups, Connecticut Freedom Alliance and We the Patriots USA. So for Connecticut Freedom Alliance, we probably only have like 1,200, a little over 1,200 emails out of 2,500 people. And then for We the Patriots, we have even less than that. We probably only have a quarter of our membership on email because people just either haven't given it or they're not seeing our posts ask for it. Is there any way that you know that we can when you're that heavily censored as a page, how can I reach my followers and my members and capture the emails? Do you have an idea? Because I agree with you. Email lists is the number one thing. When I send out, like I have constant contact, when I send out my emails, I get a lot more eyes on that than I ever do on Facebook.
Yeah, this is a difficult problem because it's really not something you could solve with a technological solution. It's something you're going to have to do through human networking. So you're going to have to look to, perhaps, I'm not saying this is a absolute solution, but look to the people who are on your mailing list and see if they can reach their network. Get people to, well, if they don't want to submit their email, let's send them to these alt platforms, someplace that you're not heavily censored, like Float, for instance, or MeWe. And let's try to fix this problem. Get people, either get their email addresses or get them on some sort of encrypted chat like Keybase, where if they don't want to release their private information, they don't have to. I wish I had a better solution than that, but that's all.
Well, I mean, Steve, one of our friends from New Jersey, is bringing up, what about Telegram chat? Many people don't like email. We use Telegram a whole heck of a lot, and I'm going to plug right now. We have an awesome, and you should join it too, Matt. It's called We the Patriots USA news channel on Telegram. We have a ton of content. My business partner, Dawn, is a speed reader. She reads literally hundreds of articles a day and sifts through the wheat from the chaff. She's excellent at doing that. And people are amazed, like in the space of a couple of hours a day, she can post like hundreds of articles of content and good, really, really good content too. So I would encourage everybody to join the We the Patriots USA news channel on Telegram. And we do have that. The problem is, there's still a ton of people who don't use Telegram too. And we say, well, I don't want to download something else. I said, it's free. Well, yeah, but I don't.
Well, I think if we're concerned about these issues, we're going to have to get over that inconvenience factor. I use probably more than 6 chat programs right now, and Telegram is fine. But I use Telegram. I use Wicker. I use Keybase. I lose track of all the programs I use for chat because I realize that I need to stay diversified in my technological stack. That's going to be the long-term solution here, is to stay diverse. The more venues we have, the better. And go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
Well, one other thing I'm thinking is that, like Discord, for instance, that's another platform. Though I am concerned about Discord because it is very heavily monitored, and I have heard of people being banned from Discord. The nice thing about Discord and Telegram is that there's scripting on them. So someone like me can build a bot, and we can do auto posting, we can do cross posting with those types of technology.
You know, I mean, this is just such a wealth of information. I'm actually like taking notes as you're saying this. So if you see me look down every so often, I'm actually typing that so that I don't forget. I mean, it's just easier for me. If I have to go back and listen to the whole thing, I'll never find the time. So although I encourage everyone else who can't watch it live or can't watch all of this live to definitely go back, because we will have it saved. StreamYard does allow us to download for 15 days after to download it. And I do it immediately now.
Sure.
I already had a problem of losing something once before. I go ahead and I download the MP4 immediately. So this will be downloaded and backed up, and we will have it in multiple places backed up immediately after this. And we do that with all our programming now because it's just too important. I mean, we have some of the guests we've had on are some of the most heavily censored people in the country, if not the world. We had the frontline doctors on a couple weeks ago, Stella Emanuel and a couple of the other doctors. I mean, they know a thing or two about censorship, about big tech censorship, but their YouTube video got like 7 million views before it was finally pulled down.
See, that's the thing that to me is optimistic. Well, up until now, it's been possible for things to slip out and to get to a large enough audience that really it was almost useless to take down their video after that. You've got enough eyes on it that now it's going to percolate through society. But maybe now that things have gotten stricter, it's going to be very hard to get 7 million views or 1 million views before they take it down. They're just going to take it down.
Well, and they came right out and said, I mean, didn't they make an announcement a week or two ago and said, we're going to start, especially with regard to medical censorship, they said, we're going to start actually just pulling everything down. If you're posting any of this fake information, we're just kicking you off our platforms. There's not going to be enough of the warnings or anything like that. We're just going to kick you off Facebook, kick you off Twitter. And I think a lot of people are going to have their accounts deleted. And that's why I felt it was so imperative. I mean, I have a long list of people that I want to interview and that I've reached out to and that I am going to be interviewing in the next, couple of months. But I said, Matt's the number one guy. I've got to talk to you because this is the scary. If we don't have a platform anymore, what good is it? Right now, I'm streaming to YouTube, multiple Facebook pages, Periscope / Twitter, all at once. But if we lose all those pages, where am I going to stream to? You know what I mean? I can stream to my website, I guess, if I can get it. If I can still get a link, whether it may not be a YouTube link, maybe it's I don't know if some BitChute or Brighteon, if they do live streaming. I don't know if they do. I know YouTube has live.
Float, by the way, Float does live streaming. That's another thing. Brighteon, not yet. I heard rumor that BitChute was planning to launch a streaming service sometime soon.
Okay,
so that's good to know.
So I'm noting that as well. I mean, this Float is going to be my go-to thing now. And I'm glad that you're plugging them. Quite frankly, I know you don't have any stock or anything, but
no.
Regardless, you should probably.
I know them. I know them though. I've had meetings with them, and I really like the people at Float. They're great. And Odyssey Library is another good platform. They don't do streaming, but that's a very, very, very good technology. I'm very impressed at what they've done.
So that's to store content.
Yeah. They basically they're kind of like BitChute in the sense that they use a peer-to-peer technology. I think I might be wrong, but I think it's based on BitTorrent, and they just have a cryptocurrency slapped on top of it for trying to reduce things like bad posts, like garbage videos. So you had to pay a little bit of crypto to be able to post a video, which is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
The other thing I've seen is people doing their own streaming. So Mark Passio over at One Great Work Network, he's streaming actually from his house. He's set up VLC, and they're doing a whole streaming network off of a server. So for people who are more technically sophisticated, that type of thing is going to emerge. And again, you're not going to have the front end of Twitter or Facebook or Google to be able to censor it because there's no eyes from that world looking at that data stream.
But I see what you're saying, and I heard what you said a few minutes ago about, well, forget about thinking you're going to reach new people, because we're not going to reach new people.
No, I don't get me wrong. I think we can reach new people. But I think that the idea that it's going to be as easy as it was, no, it's not going to be as easy.
No, it's not going to be easy. The only reason I've told people to stay on Facebook, in addition to going to places like Parler and MeWe and all the other places, all the other alternative platforms, I've said, though, keep your Facebook page as long as you can. And the reason I've said that is because the sheer number of users doesn't compare to these other platforms. These other platforms, they could it'd take them a decade or more to even come close to catching up to what Facebook has right now. I mean, you're talking about billions and billions of users worldwide. So even if they're cutting you down to a fraction, so even if you're only reaching 10% of the people that you were before, still, if you were reaching millions of people before, 10% of several million is still way more you're going to get on Parler.
Well, let's think about that for a minute. Are you really on Facebook reaching 1 billion people? I mean, I recognize that they have that many users, but understand they segment your viewership by region. So you're actually only reaching people in North America and Europe. You're not reaching people in Asia.
Well, not on the We Are Vaxxed page, which I'm streaming to right now. This is a fun little game my partner and I do every time we come on. Everybody post where you're watching from right now, because we have worldwide viewership on that page. Okay? But that took a lot of work. Polly Tommy has built that page up over years to get, I mean, she's physically gone over to Australia and met people over there. So we have a lot of viewers from Australia, and she's from the UK. So we have a lot of people. So that's the old-fashioned type of networking that you talked about, the actually telling people about it, come onto this page. I mean, not just putting a page out there and getting it didn't just happen organically. You know what I mean? There was a lot of work to build that up.
Well, then I think we're going to have to do something more like, let's say, a kamikaze approach.
Yep.
Right? Where you've got accounts that are like maybe one-time use accounts where you reach out, you post things. That's kind of like a guerrilla tactic, you know? I think that might be something worth looking into, because if you look at, say, like pirated video on YouTube is a thing. Well, we almost have to use some of the same tactics that pirates use to post stuff.
Right. No, I see. I hate to say it, but I think you're right. Yes, Polly is awesome. So most of them are from America right now, but I am seeing a few Australia.
Well, that would make sense because they're a Western culture. But you know, how many in India do you have? Because the bulk of that big
Northern Ireland
number is India.
Yeah, I mean, most of our viewers are from either the UK or from Australia and the United States. So on that We Are Vaxxed page, I'd say the bulk. I have seen some from Africa. Here's one coming in from Canada. So, you know, we do have Steve. Yeah, we know you're from New Jersey. I already said Steve. He's one of our buddies. He's awesome, though. This guy's a warrior, let me tell you, for freedom and for truth. But yeah, another Canada, Edmonton, another Canada. Okay, so we've got a few people from Canada right now too. But what time is it in Australia? I don't know, Steve.
It's probably about noontime in Australia, depending on, because Australia is big. It's got several time zones in it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's huge. I've never been. I don't really want to go right now because of everything that's happening. It's a dangerous place to be right now. Let me tell you that. But yep, Jay, I know you're in Connecticut. You're close to me. So we have some questions coming in. If you don't mind, I'd like to take some questions from the audience. But let me just go back up because I'm going to scroll up to where I had a question earlier. So so many comments now. Let me go back up.
You know, what's interesting to me is if you have people in developing nations, I do know from living in a developing nation that there's a lot of private groups that people in these countries use for commerce. So if you have people in these other countries, you need to start understanding where their communities communicate. And then we need to start trying to infiltrate those communities by way of those people in those areas. I mean, this is really an info war. It is. It's an info war, and we need to think in terms of guerrilla tactics and not the open, free society that we've been accustomed to for decades.
I couldn't agree more. This is definitely a war. It's a tech war. It's an info war. It's a war on the truth. right now. That's exactly what's happening. So Jay's asking, I think this is what when we were discussing earlier about backing up, I think it was before you gave the Flow app, but he's asking, can we back up 4 to 5 years of discussions? Is there an easy way to save membership lists and other details for easy backup? So he's not just talking about content. He's asking the membership lists on the groups, because that's a great idea, you know, because if you have 5,000 members, 10,000 members, you know, if you at least have all of their Facebook names, all right, your page might be deleted, but you could still, theoretically, it might take you a long time. You might need a team of people doing it, but have people private message individually, reach out to those people and get them on board on your new platform. Is there a way to back up?
I think that's possible, though. You know, Facebook seems to have anticipated this a long time ago, because a personal Facebook page has a limit to the number of friends it can have. Mm-hmm. I want to say, 5,000. Yeah, 5,000.
5,000.
So
yep.
It is conceivable that you could, over say 3 or 4 accounts, cover maybe 15 or 20,000 people, and you could individually post them, and that's scriptable. You could turn that into a program. You could do that.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know. Someone just answered your question. It's midday in Queensland, but Australia does have 4 time zones, they're saying. All right, so does anyone have any other specific questions about your page? Because I invited people to watch this that actually have their own pages, but their own organizations, people who might be administrators, like, for instance, the We Are Vax page. I invited the admins to come on, or the page managers to come on to actually watch this. And if there's other people too that have specific tech questions that are worried about their content and what they can do, please ask your question. Jay is coming in with another one. I'll just keep, Jay, you're the only one asking questions, so I'm going to keep asking.
Well, efficiently,
have all those people in an efficient manner.
Efficiently by human means, no, but by machine means, yes. One of the technologies we use is they're called headless browsers. So we can script a web browser like a human was using it, but it's actually a program. So if an account had people, we could just flip between people in the account, sending them messages.
So a headless browser. And so if I wanted to send out a mass, I don't want to call it spam, but that's essentially what it would be. A mass, message like I would on Constant Contact, like some content, a mass email almost to 4,000 different people. Could I conceivably use that to do that?
Yeah, and I haven't tried this on Facebook yet, but you can do it. I mean, it's conceivable. We navigate pages all the time using these headless browsers. So if you could just have the membership list in your messenger chat, you could go through one after the other, sending messages. Yeah, you could do that. And
so it won't flag it like it does now. If I try to send too many messages, it flags me as spam because I'm sending too many.
Okay, well then what we would want to do is fragment that into multiple accounts. What's the threshold? How many messages do you have to?
It depends who you are. So if you're someone who sends it a lot, at one point I could only do 30. Most people can do 100 messages a day.
Well, then we do it across like 100 accounts then.
So when you say we do it across 100 accounts, how do you actually do that though?
That's a good question, because Facebook verifies identity. So we would probably have to have some people who would be willing to sacrifice their accounts.
Okay.
Yeah, to do that. That would be tricky.
Okay. Well, I'm going to look more into that anyway, because that seems to be.
Yeah, I said that's a bit of an awkward solution. Again, they've really kind of made this difficult for us. And while we can pursue those, I think we also need to be looking at the larger networking solution, because I think in the long term, that's the one that's going to be harder to stop.
Oh, absolutely. I think person-to-person networking, real human contact is something they still haven't figured out a way to stop. They can stop it on their platforms, but there's lots of other places we can go on the internet. We don't need them. They're a very useful tool, and they have been for a long time, and they've actually helped us grow exponentially. I'm not going to deny that. But at this point, as Steve's saying, they've tightened things up a whole lot. Yes, I agree, Steve. It's gotten crazy to the point where, it's almost, it's unthinkable to me, and I'm just going to get a little political here. Well, not political, but just it's. I'm going to go beyond just talking about tech for a moment. It's unthinkable to me, that unfathomable, that so many people would be okay with this, level of censorship, because I understand there's a large contingent of people that are very happy that medical misinformation, as they call it, is being censored, and information that they find to be false news is being censored. But don't they realize that this is such a slippery slope? Don't they realize that any day their topic of choice of interest might be just completely pulled from the internet because somebody at Google or at Facebook or at Twitter doesn't like what they're saying? Haven't they ever considered? I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you think that people just haven't woken up to this yet? Enough people? Because I would think if the majority of the country or the majority of the world realized what I'm saying now, they'd all be pushing back against it, even for the stuff that they don't like.
I follow what I call the 70-30 rule. I think that 70% of the people don't like what's going on. 30% actually think it's a good idea. Of that 70%, 95% of that 70% feels as though they can't buck the trend. So what can I do? Right? So they just don't try to push back. And we're that tiny 5% of that 70% that actually understand that this isn't right.
Right. Well, I hope it goes, even higher than that sooner rather than later.
But, as I've told other people that come to me kind of despondent, I'm like, well, what else would you want to do with your life than fight for something that's a good cause? This is a good cause. It doesn't matter whether it's a hard cause, right? It's right. A good cause.
Right.
And I am optimistic that in the end, we're going to prevail because we're living in a networked society. We don't really perceive the whole picture of what's going on. In my position, interviewing content creators and talking to people who lead communities, I'm amazed at how many communities there are. So I'll be dealing with one group of content creators, and they don't realize that there's a dozen other communities that are saying basically the same thing they are. Mm-hmm. Right? I've heard Richard Grove over at Autonomy and Grand Theft World. He said, well, there's only 18 people in the world that I know of that understand this thing about COVID. Like, no, that's not right. There's not just 18 people. There's probably 1,000 or 2,000 people that understand what you're saying. It's just you don't know who they are.
Exactly. That's a great point. We have to find out who they are. That's the key.
And I think that this is the irony of the situation we're in. It's causing us to further network, which works against the greater problem, right? Is that we're increasing our skill at networking, so we're going to become more aware of the other groups that are out there.
And they wanted to take away, and they thought that they were going to further divide us and stop us from talking to each other by keeping us all locked down. But it's given us more time to spend on the computer, which is where it's all done now anyway. That's an excellent point. I agree, Jay. It is amazing we can be having these conversations right now. Somebody, Steve is mentioning also iPatriot.com is supposed to be exactly like Facebook interface.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one either. That's a good one. Let's keep that in our back pocket, Steve. iPatriot.com.
And you would be amazed at the communities that would seemingly have no overlap, but they actually have overlap now. I deal with one of my clients that's kind of in the more alien sort of thing, like extraterrestrials. And she now has overlap with these communities. Things that you would never have thought that these people could be allies with one another. They're now allies.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all of the patriots that came out against these lockdowns since they started have joined our medical freedom movement, which we found fascinating. That we had all of these people. So when I say medical freedom, you know what I mean. A lot of people who question vaccine safety, things like that. We had people come out of the woodwork that their whole life were completely pro-vax, completely pro, vaccine mandates, all this. But now all of a sudden they're saying, wait a second. Now that these mandates apply to something I don't like, it's not so cool anymore. Like I was okay with. I was okay with getting vaccines because I didn't have a problem with vaccines, but I'm not okay with having to wear a mask all the time, or I'm not okay with having to get tested. My employer requiring that I get tested every week or every 2 weeks.
What about the more crazy things like microdots and travel permits and
contact tracing, and I can't leave the state anymore. I'm not okay, or I can't have my business open, but the guy down the street can. Okay, so I have a bar and I can't be open, but the liquor store next door can be open. All right, where's the logic? You're picking winners and losers, and people came out of the woodwork and said, you know what, you guys are right. We should be fighting against the government forcing anything on us, imposing, and it actually brought people together. And I don't know that they fully anticipated that. I mean, they probably saw some of it would happen, but I don't know that they anticipated it to this degree.
Well, another shout out. There's a commentator I listen to. He's from the Northeast. I'm not exactly sure what state he's in, but his name's Steve Turley. He's an academic. He teaches at a liberal arts college, I believe, or high school or college or something like that. And he talks about the networked society. Mm-hmm. And his claim in his show is that this has been a trend since the late 50s that just keeps accelerating throughout time, that we move from this mass society, one that's centralized, into a distributed networked society. And he said there's no stopping it. You can't stop it. No amount of censorship is going to stop it, because our whole society is built around free communication, right?
It's been going on longer than that, I think. I mean, if you want to trace it back to the American Revolution, that was all networking. That happened. You know, one of my favorite memes, I saw it again just about 2 days ago, is the American Revolution started in taverns and in bars, in restaurants, those conversations, and exactly what are the first places they shut down during the lockdown? Exactly those gathering places. But again, in the 21st century, does that matter so much as far as networking? Again, person-to-person networking, I still find it to be the most effective as far as making an impression on someone, as far as making an impression. Not the most effective as far as reaching the most number of people at once, unless I'm going to a place that happens to have a crowd of 50,000 people and I'm speaking up on a stage to them, which doesn't ever happen. Then that's fine. I will relate an experience though that I had last year when New Jersey was fighting to keep their religious exemption for vaccinations, and I went down to Trenton, and a group of us actually went down several times to Trenton to fight with them. And shout out again to all of our New Jerseyans. And I found that experience to be so enriching, but also so educational, because what I learned from that was we were standing in a long, long line, and they had us in overflow rooms for this public hearing that was happening. And they had a line stretching down the hall of hundreds of people, and there were thousands of people in the building, but hundreds of people stretching down this long line. So I took a segment of the line at a time, and I gave a speech and explained to them what we want to do and what's happening in my state of Connecticut. And I handed out business cards, and I went segment by segment in the line. I had so many contacts from that, and people still will contact me sometimes and say, hey, I met you in Trenton, and I remember you spoke to us at that line. That human contact, because there were hundreds or actually thousands in the building, I was able to reach a lot. The ordinary contact, if I'm not, giving a speech or anything, or even if I attend a rally, I might interact with a couple dozen people. You're not going to have the numbers, but the impression you leave on people when you come out in person. I mean, I traveled 4 hours to be there. When you come in person, you make that effort and you shake their hand. Well, they don't let you shake hands anymore. We still do though. When you shake their hand and you talk to them and they meet you and you have that personal connection, it's something you can't get over media. So I'm still a very, very strong believer in that. But obviously in the 21st century, social media is just, it's ingrained in the fabric of our lives now. We really can't escape it. And I don't really want to escape it. I just want to find a way that I can have a free platform. When we started our first organization, the Connecticut Freedom Alliance, our number one principle was we weren't going to allow censorship of any kind, at least not by us. I didn't realize Facebook was going to get so bad with censorship, but I said, even if you're criticizing this group, even if you're bad mouthing us, we don't take it down, because that's what the First Amendment is all about. It protects even especially unpopular speech, not just the speech that everyone agrees with.
Freedom of speech has a sociological benefit. That's why we should not be censoring people. It allows for the less aggression. It provides an alternative to violence. And this is what confuses me about the mass society. Why would you want to censor people? You should want them to speak freely. Convince them with the better argument. What do you want? Violence? Because ultimately that's what it leads to. It leads to violence.
When you oppress people, that is absolutely the result. You take a segment of society and say, no, you're not going to have the same rights and privileges as the rest. It leads to an uprising. I mean, we saw it during the Civil War times, okay? We saw it during the Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and early 60s, okay? We've seen it again and again and again throughout history, and it's happening again now.
And I think it represents a disconnect between that level of society that runs that sort of centralized thing, right? That they don't really understand what the rest of society's like. I've dealt with people over the years in the IT industry that their attitude toward the populace is very disdainful. I mean, it's like those people don't understand anything. They're in the way of progress, and that very dismissive toward what the rest of society is thinking.
Right. No, I agree. They are in their ivory towers, so to speak, maybe literally. So Sherry's asked a question. That professor that you had mentioned,
Steve Turley.
Steve Turley, Turley.
Yes, and he has a website called turleytalks.com.
Turley Talks. Okay, so Sherry, that's the website. Definitely look him up. I'd like to connect with him as well, as a matter of fact. Do you have a connection with him, or you just listen to him?
I just listen to him, though one of my clients actually knows him. But I've been trying to find a venue to reach out to him, since I think we could be helping him.
Yeah, I think we definitely could. He sounds like a great guy. Mara, remember I said I could only do 30 a time because I'm so heavily censored? She said 10 at a time. So you must be really doing things right, Mara, if you can only reach 10 people at a time. That's just crazy. It's like, why even bother? I can see why so many people just up and left Facebook and said, you know what, this is nonsense. I'm done. It's not even worth my time,
Well, see, I only stay on Facebook because of business. But I don't do any personal communication on Facebook anymore.
I do very little. I can't say I never do any, but very, very little. It's mostly for my businesses. I agree with you. Someone's asking, Maria is asking, would you give suggestions for email besides Gmail if you can't self-host?
Proton Mail out of Switzerland. I would recommend them. They're pretty good. Though I would assume, again, they might have a corporate commitment not to be decrypting your emails, but understand there is no such thing as national or international level private communication. It does not exist. Whether it's encrypted or not, somebody in some intelligence agency can decrypt your.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? The Chinese and a lot of other hackers around the world can decrypt the Pentagon stuff, the CIA stuff. There was a hack the other day into the Treasury Department and the Energy Department. Did you know that?
No, I didn't hear about that. No.
I originally heard it was just the Treasury Department, and then word came just yesterday or the day before that also the Department of Energy servers were hacked. That's bad, because the Department of Energy controls the nuclear reactors and the grid.
See, I didn't say it in the intro, but I have a triple major as an undergraduate in physics, computer science, and mathematics. And I went to graduate school for a year in NC State. And I found it, even at the time, this would have been the early 90s, I found it strange. It's like, okay, I have all these Chinese classmates. And you ask them, what are you studying? I'm like, nuclear physics. I'm like, really? We're we're schooling all of the Chinese in nuclear physics. Does this make sense to you? I have relatives that were in they were in an industry where they were outsourcing a lot of stuff, and they were talking about the outsourcing of tech back in the 80s to China. So you had major motor companies, for instance, that were outsourcing. All their IP was exposed in China from the late 80s forward, and the Chinese were forcing parallel management. So every position at the company had to have a Chinese pair. And he was like, "Why did we do this? This doesn't make any sense. We're saving money, yeah, but in the end, this is going to come back to bite us, and it's coming back to bite us."
I agree. The biggest threat to our national security is China. Without a doubt. People want to talk about Russia or Iran. I'm not saying those don't pose any threat, but China is the biggest threat. And it's not only from the standpoint of, physical force, but from the standpoint of technological invasion. And I think that's already happened. I know, not I think, that has already happened, and that's going to continue to happen. What is the most secure chat platform, though? I know you said none of them are completely encrypted to the point where they can't be hacked, and I get that. But some people say Telegram, some people say Signal. Is there another one that's better than those two even?
Well, see, this is all a matter of degree. Okay, I believe that things like Telegram and Signal are secure. But if you wanted to go with something that was a bit more private, that there was less connection between you and the chat, I would go with something like Wickr, which WICKR. The free version is called Wickr Me. There's also a pro version, which you have to pay for. That one does not connect your cell phone number to the chat. All these others like Telegram and even Keybase, which I really like Keybase, it connects your cell phone to the chat. So they have a way to positively identify who it is that's chatting. But I would go with Wickr if you want to say most secure.
So now the problem with that, though, the obvious problem that raises, if it's not connected to your phone, it's not going to automatically load all your contacts.
That's right. That's why some people like it. They like it because it doesn't automatically load their contacts. So again, it's convenience. If you're willing to sacrifice the convenience of that, then Wickr is more secure. If you don't want to sacrifice that convenience, then go with Signal and Telegram.
Okay. That's good to know. Because a lot of us in this movement, or in a lot of our movements, means I've mentioned medical freedom a few times, but we're involved in other stuff too, protecting basically all the First Amendment freedoms. We the Patriots is involved in protecting Second Amendment rights, in protecting education freedom, religious freedom, all different kinds of freedoms. And we talk sometimes with leaders across the country who are very prominently involved in some of the legal battles and some of the legislative, battles, and we have discussions with them. And sometimes those are very secure discussions that we would not want broadcast. So it would be nice to have an app like that, or also, what about video conferencing? Because Zoom is made by the Chinese, right? I mean, somebody said it's owned by.
I don't think Zoom is made by the Chinese. What happened with Zoom was that there were nodes in the Zoom network which were in China. But I would still say, as far as a secure conference, I would not trust Zoom.
So who would you trust? Anyone?
There's a company called Wire. That you can do secure teleconferencing on Wire. Now, the free version, it's only 1-to-1, but if you did get the pro version, it allows for larger groups. I would trust them. I use them for company chats all the time, a voice, and we can do everything you could do with Zoom. We can do desktop sharing, we can do video conferencing, and we can do chat. And in fact, to be honest, Zoom is terrible when it comes to its interface. Is absolutely horrible. I don't know how it ended up being the mammoth that it
number
is.
one, right? Well,
Yeah.
I've used another one, Microsoft Teams, and not that I like Microsoft, but that's actually, I found it to be a little bit more user friendly than Zoom, and the quality of the video is better. I don't know. It's still not secure. Obviously, I wouldn't trust anything from Microsoft, but
I go with Wired. You should look into Wired.
okay. So for video conferencing, everybody, it's Wire, and Wire Pro is what will allow you to have, more than just two people in there.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I found Wired. I've only had one business partner had a problem with connecting on Wire, but everyone else has had no issue connecting on Wire.
Okay. Excellent. No, this is great information. I've been learning so much. I really appreciate you spending the time with us. Does anyone have any more questions? Yeah.
I was going to say that it's interviews and conferences like this that I think we could get some of the new people that we're striving for, where we get different groups to meet and talk about issues. And that way we expose, like, how many people had not heard of Steve Turley?
I hadn't.
Right. I mean, I don't even represent Steve. I just think he has great content. And now a lot of hundreds of people now know about Steve Turley.
Oh, so someone's coming up with one of the pages we streamed to. We Are Vaxxed. They just said it's no longer searchable. Oh, that's not good. Did that just happen now that we're exposing all their their thievery? And
is that on YouTube or Facebook?
That is Facebook. So someone's asking who you are, Matt. I've never heard of the guy. Well, I hadn't either. I hadn't either, but can you tell Christine again who you are and why she should listen to you?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to answer that question, who I am. But I have not really been a voice in the alt community. I'll admit that. I've been more a viewer, a consumer for years, but I've been changing that since the lockdowns. I'm also involved in Grand Theft World. That's another podcast or show I should shout out. That's run by Richard.
Plug away. We allow plugging freely. I plug freely. You plug freely. We all plug.
And what I like about Grand Theft World is it's exactly like what I described, where you have different communities meeting and discussing news items each week on Sunday evening. In fact, it's going to be starting, I think they just started at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern. This is run by Autonomy, which is Richard Grove's group. I don't know if you know about Richard.
I don't.
Richard Grove runs this awesome organization called Autonomy, and Autonomy is a course that you can enroll in that they teach you how to do business. So you're taught marketing and sales, and just full disclosure here, I'm also partnered with Autonomy. I am handling all their IT, and next year I'll be teaching courses in IT for their students.
Okay, great. So
I don't know if that answers Christine's question or not, but I have.
Well, you've spent most of your career, or most of the last decade or two, however long you've been following alternative news, from behind the keyboard instead of being in front of a camera. And now you're, like you said, you've changed that since the lockdown. So I think people will be hearing more about you. I mean, I heard about you. You're talking about networking and word of mouth. I heard about you literally during a podcast interview I was doing with Ricky. He brought your name up, and I said, and there were a whole list of names, and most of them I recognize, people that are, somewhat famous and have podcasts and have for many years. Like I'll give another plug on Wednesday. Dawn and I are going to be on Mike Adams' podcast. So he's the health ranger. He's very well known. So that's one of the names he threw out there. So he put me in touch with a lot of different people, and he said, but Matt so feel honored. So I even got in contact with you before Mike Adams. Okay, Matt from Content Safe. You need to talk to him. You've got to talk to him. You've got to back up. Well, because this is the thing. Again, I can do Mike Adams show, that's wonderful. If I don't have anywhere to post it, anywhere that's public and nobody's gonna see it, if I lose all my platforms, then what the hell good was any of it? Those other things aren't as important to me. I need to figure out a way to secure all of my information, and then we'll worry about setting up the interviews with all the famous people.
Now, before we wrap up here, I think there's something else I want to talk about, and that is down the road, long term, we need to be thinking about technologies that could replace all of these centralized servers. There is a technology, it's a mature technology. Let's say it's maturing technology. It's called Interplanetary File System, IPFS. Groups like Ernest Hancock out of Arizona, Freedom's Phoenix, they're promoting using IPFS as a replacement for YouTube. But it goes way beyond that. A content creator could host their own IPFS node in their home or on a server, and they could distribute links to their videos, their documents, everything, and those could be then network shared across the internet globally to other people who run IPFS nodes. You can access this using a regular web browser. That technology is available, but it gives the content creator control over the content, and it becomes much more resistant to censorship. This is a long-term solution, but it's something that I agree with Ernest. I really think that this is a direction that we need to be going in.
Okay, so how do we exactly get started with that, though, with IPFS? I don't even understand what it is. I mean, I'm not a tech person. I think most people listening don't. Can you give us a little more detail about that?
Well, essentially, what we're planning is to show people how to either build their own IPFS nodes or provide maybe a product that they could just buy from us or Ernest or someone else who produces these products. Because I've actually talked to 2 or 3 different groups that wants to make these products. You could take, I don't know, have you ever heard of a Raspberry Pi?
No.
It's a little computer on a small board. It's only about this big. They cost about $35, $70, and they're a whole computer on a small card. You install the software on that little card and you bundle it up with the storage, and you buy it for whatever amount of money, and you just plug it into your internet, and it streams out your videos, your documents. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I still wouldn't know how to do it, but
we would show you. That's another thing. Content Safe plans not only to be selling a service, but we plan to be building a community and educating content creators, because we feel that the future is through education.
Well, let me know when that's up and running. Please stay in touch with me, and I'll have you back on even so we can promote it. Seriously, I want to give you a platform. This We Are Vax page, despite the fact that it's being censored, that's one of the pages we're streaming. I have the great privilege and honor of being an admin to that page. It's got over 181,000 followers worldwide. So awesome. You've got a huge audience right now. Like I said, at any given time, we only had a couple hundred watching tonight, but over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours, that'll tick up to well over 10,000, 15,000 views. We'll have a lot of views on this, a lot of eyes on this. So if you want to come on, this is a great platform. And I'll allow you to do this as long as, again, there's no objection from Polly or anyone else. But I don't think there will be, because I told her I was doing this interview. As a courtesy, I'll let her know when I'm having a program coming in there. I usually try to remember to do that and send her over information, and she was all for this. That's great, because obviously they're worried about protecting their information on this page as well. I mean, this is stuff we all need to be getting involved in tech stuff. Everyone who's in any of these movements, again, whether it's like I said, whether it's the medical freedom movement, whether it's these reopen movements, anti-lockdown, whether it's Second Amendment, anyone who's doing anything that's somewhat controversial and that the powers that be don't want you talking about and don't want you connecting on, you have to make sure that you are a little bit tech savvy, or at least have a good team that's tech savvy that's working for you. And it sounds like that's what Content Safe is going to be.
That's right.
I want to stay in touch because I want to talk to you about about having a business relationship with you. And again, this isn't the time to be doing it during a live interview, but we can have that conversation offline about developing a business relationship going forward. Because I would like to invest. Our company. I can say I'll talk to my business partner about it, but I'm pretty sure Don's going to feel the same way. We want to invest in protecting our content more than anything. I mean that has to be a significant portion of what we spend our money on, because otherwise, what good is it if we lose everything? All these programs we put on and spent hours and hours and hours. I mean, I did a 24-hour vaccine safety awareness marathon. All right, I did Jerry Lewis style on Labor Day weekend. I went 24 hours straight interviewing people from all over the world. All right, it was awesome. It was exhausting, and unfortunately, I didn't know how to back everything up. And I don't have. It's not lost. It's still available on Periscope. You can still view the whole 24 hours on Periscope. They haven't taken it down.
Oh, okay.
But it's been very difficult. And we did have someone download it into a Dropbox at one point, but a bunch of the files went missing. So we're still trying to piece that all together. Maybe you can help us with that. I mean, is there an easy
I definitely can help you with it. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I can help you with that.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send you the link from Periscope and ask and see if there's any way you can help us get that content, because, that was huge. That was the biggest event we ever did. But that's my point. I had to put so many hours of planning into that. And we bought this StreamYard software. Actually, that's the first thing we originally used this for. We invested money and time into putting that together. And then to have, most of the pages pulled it down right away, like Facebook and YouTube. It was just deleted right away. But then for some reason, Periscope has never taken it down. They've left it up there for months now. The full thing.
We better get it ASAP.
I'm going to send you the link as soon as we hang up.
Yes, that'd be great.
If you can help me out, I just let me know what you're able to do for me, if you're able to help me out, if it's easy enough to get it captured, because
this is what I do practically all day long, is help people extract data and change formats and do everything you can imagine. I have not had a break in 6 months because there's just so much stuff to do.
Absolutely. No, I can imagine. Jay wants to know if he can personally get in touch with you, if you're fine giving your email out.
Sure. You can reach me at matthew.raymer@contentsafe.co.
matthew.raymer@contentsafe.co.
Right.
Okay. So Jay, if you want to just type that into the comments, that would be great as well. And then anyone who wants to reach out and who wants to maybe avail themselves of your services, like I said, even on a business level, and develop a relationship with you, going forward with Content Safe, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be interested in getting in touch with you after this call.
Well, I know that in your particular area of interest, this is hot, and censorship is probably this. Other than fraud in the election, right? This is the hottest topic.
Oh yeah,
of censorship.
Yeah. I agree with you. After the election, BigTech censorship is right there. Is right there next on the list. Section 230. Everybody's talking about this right now. Carmen says thank you from New Zealand. Great discussion. So see, we get another country on there. Good. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up now. This has been a pleasure. This has been great, very educational. I took a ton of notes. I was sending them all to my partner Dawn. She's going to when she's not available right now. When she gets back to her Telegram thread, she's got a big long list of notes of everything that you told me that we need to know and we need to start doing. So we're gonna start on that immediately. Thank you, Jay, for posting that. That he just posted your email. That's right? Content Safe with an F.
Yes, with an F. Yeah,
with an F. So Jay, it's at Content Safe, SAF as in Frank E.co, not a V. So but thank you for putting that up there. Whoever has contentsave.co, if that's a real thing, is going to get some messages, I'm sure now. somebody's asking content.
And I would definitely like to talk to you more, especially because of the legal background. I'd like to fill in my gaps because clients often ask me legal questions, and I'm not really that aware of everything. And it would be nice to.
Sure. We can help each other. Hey, maybe we can even work out, some sort of. Well, I can't give formal legal. Let me just correct that. I can't give any formal legal advice on a barter system. All right, there has to be. I can only do it to clients that I retain. But I can put you in touch with people that can help you. Maybe.
Okay. Cool.
I can certainly do that. I can't do it. I can't offer any kind of legal services under the code of ethics. I'm not allowed to do it like trade like that. It has to be like a formal, retainer engagement letter. And if there's a fee for it, it has to be paid in cash or things like that. Or it's pro bono. Or I can offer things. I'm allowed to offer pro bono help. But the other thing is I can only offer to clients in the states that I'm or the state that I'm registered licensing. Right now is Connecticut and the federal district court as well in Connecticut. So, but I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of attorneys and other people that might be able to help you if I'm not able to answer a question. I always tell people if there's something that I can't answer, I'll tell you straight out. I'm not going to try to pretend like I know something I don't know. But I know a lot of people that know about a lot of things, and the law is one of them. So I can definitely point you in the right direction. And anyone else who has any questions for Matthew, please reach out to him or reach out to me. If you're having trouble getting a hold of him, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with him. And Matt, we're going to definitely have you on again, especially once you're getting ready to launch your full set of, complement of services. I think this is just.
Well, I didn't even get to talk this time about what our long-term plans are, and it would take another show for us to talk about that.
Well, let's do that. This has been a great conversation. I'd like to have you back on. So let's definitely do that. And anyone, you can continue to post in these comments. Again, if you join our groups, Matt, either We the Patriots USA or Connecticut Freedom Alliance, you will see this posted there. You'll also see it on our YouTube page, Connecticut Freedom Alliance YouTube page. And on Twitter @KeepCTFree is our Twitter handle. We have a pretty good following on Twitter actually. So we're broadcasting live there as well. And definitely, reach out again if you need help with anything else or you have any other questions. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you offline as well. All right.
Awesome. I've loved it. It was great. Thanks for all the questions.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And I will be in touch. And thank you, all of you, for watching. Have a great week coming up. And Merry